famous and highly coveted.
Our customers don't need an AMG. They want an AMG.
Adored by fans.
The customer is allowed to enter our sacred halls. They can see exactly how their engine builder has assembled their engine from start to finish.
Every machine is a one-of-a-kind masterpiece.
I'm very proud to be able to assemble this entire motor.
From the racetrack to the street.
These are vehicles that, when they drive down the road, give you goosebumps and make people turn their heads. And that's what drives everything forward.
When luxury meets performance.
Then, suddenly, the passion ignites, and you feel the desire to fulfill that dream.
Cars become legends. "7 a.m. at the AMG plant in Affalterbach. Gökhan Güllecki begins his shift with a familiar ritual. He runs his hands over a crankcase. In the next few hours, the AMG technician will assemble an entire engine. One man, one engine, one job.
So, I take the engine and start working on it, like with a baby. I essentially assemble it completely from start to finish. Every single step. And that's the most beautiful and emotional thing you can do. Something I can create with my own hands.
An AMG engine is born. Assembled by a single technician in 4 hours, from the first to the last screw. Gökhan Güllecki first secures the crankcase onto a mounting cart, which will now be his constant companion. The entire production process is structured almost like a race. At the start, both the technician and the assembly block cross a starting line. The 8 pistons are waiting for their turn. Gökhan Güllecki carefully hangs them onto the cart. A mounting template ensures that they slide precisely into the cylinders.
First, oil it up. Now, the piston needs to go into the cylinder. We have 2 piston rings here and an oil control ring.
Each stroke marks a new station on the path to the completed engine. The crankcase now forms a functional engine core, with the up and down movement of the pistons generating rotational motion.
This is my engine. I've prepared it, and now I get to assemble it from start to finish. It's a special moment because who else gets to do that? One man, one engine. That's the tradition we have here. And putting our badge on it by the end of it is a wonderful feeling. It's a lot of fun, yeah.
One man, one engine. AMG proudly calls it a globally unique production philosophy. A single technician is fully responsible for assembling each engine, making every unit a one-of-a-kind masterpiece. Michael Schiebe, CEO of AMG since 2023, is committed to preserving this special production tradition for the future.
Our 2 founding fathers, Hans-Werner Aufrecht and Erhard Melcher, come from engine building, and accordingly, engine building remains the heart of all our activities. And one man, one engine is, of course, the ultimate discipline, so to speak. We have one person who truly builds the entire engine from start to finish. Have you seen the covered engines on the side? And I think that describes it best. It's not like when the shift ends, another mechanic finishes the engine the next day. No, the engine waits 14 days if necessary, until the employee returns from vacation to complete what they started, their engine. The quality seal with their nameplate is the final touch, marking the engine's completion.
This engine, too, progresses alongside its technician. Gökhan Güllecki is now on his way to the next station. Each time, he encounters a new workshop environment. Each time, he scans tools and components. Only when everything checks out is the next step of the assembly process unlocked.
Everything here is closely monitored. We scan all the components, and in the end, if any issues arise, we can trace exactly where and what went wrong.
The tools hang within easy reach from the ceiling, and the equipment is connected through a network. Every step of the assembly process is monitored in real time with computer support. If something isn't correct, the system immediately provides feedback.
We have a 5G network in place, which allows us to precisely and digitally control all the processes of our mechanics. At the same time, it supports the mechanic in such a way that mistakes are almost impossible to make.
For mechanic Guleczki, a critical assembly step awaits in cycle 6.
So, we've already made it to this point. We've got the oil pan installed, the oil pump in place, and our timing chains are prepared, along with the oil filter and oil level. Now we're at the stage where we'll be mounting the cylinder heads. For that, we'll need a few screws.
The bolts that connect the cylinder heads to the engine block are ready. A robotic arm brings the first cylinder head into place. But precise alignment still relies on human judgment. Sometimes, the human eye catches details that the machine cannot.
So, now we still continuously check all of our components, ensuring their quality, and that there are no damages.
The crankcase is carefully inspected from all angles one last time, and then the moment arrives. Slowly, the cylinder head lowers onto the engine block. Every guide pin and hole must align with millimeter precision. This is one of the most crucial moments in the engine's construction. The heart of the machine is coming to life.
So, at this point, we already have the first cylinder head in place. Once we have the next one on, we'll have nearly half of the engine assembled.
But first, one step backward is necessary to move forward. The camshaft, now resting on top, is removed again. Only then is there space to insert the cylinder head bolts, which will later be hidden beneath the camshaft. Everything in each cycle is carefully planned and organized. Every movement follows a precise plan. When Guleczki removes the camshaft from the housing, he places it on a holder attached to the cart. Now, the area needed for the next step is exposed and ready for the upcoming tasks.
Now the cylinder head bolts are being inserted.
The screws are not yet tightened, only loosely fixed in place. Guleczki moves to the left side of the engine, preparing to repeat all the steps he has just completed on the other side. Inspect carefully. Mount the cylinder head. Scan the equipment to unlock the next step. Now the day of cylinder head assembly is nearly complete.
Now the bridge is being removed, allowing us to insert the bolts. They will be tightened shortly, and then our cylinder head will be united with the crankcase.
In the 7th cycle, the so-called multi-spindle system is waiting. Here, the machine takes over the fine-tuning. The digitally controlled screw mechanism works with precision at every point, tightening all the cylinder head bolts simultaneously with the exact specified torque. After that, human finesse is once again required. Guleczki oils the camshaft-bearing housing. Now, he can remount the camshaft, which will set the precise timing for the engine's intake and exhaust valves. By now, the shape of the engine is clearly recognizable. The 8 cylinders are arranged at a V angle to each other, giving the V8 its name.
I know the engine inside and out. I could assemble it in my sleep even.
The same applies to the next step, the installation of the timing chains. These connect the crankshaft to the camshafts. The chains synchronize the individual movements of the engine, creating a unified motion. The engine gains its heartbeat. The chains are placed and secured with pins. To ensure precise alignment, Gulecki uses a template. This tool determines the exact position. Later, the opening and closing of the valves will be perfectly synchronized with the up and down motion of the pistons.
So, we're connecting our crankshaft with our camshaft, which are precisely synchronized. For that, we use our specialized tools. If this connection isn't perfect, the engine won't run.
Where the power of the V8 will later roar, it's now about fractions of millimeters. Gulecki mounts the sprockets onto the camshafts. The crankshaft and camshaft are linked by the timing chains. The camshafts control the opening and closing of the valves in sync with the crankshaft. At this point, Gökhan Gulecki has already covered more than half the distance toward the finish line. AMG. This is where it all began. Beneath this hood lies a legendary engine. A team of motorsport enthusiasts brought it back to life in a small workshop. But first, the machine needs to be awakened. Matthias Bettels and his team have faithfully rebuilt this vehicle. Nickname, the Red Pig. In the 1970s, AMG's success began with such a modified Mercedes limousine. Bettels is currently preparing the horsepower monster for a classic car race. From a Mercedes 300 SEL classic car, the automotive engineers have assembled a faithful replica of the former racing machine.
This engine has received over 400 hours of work in terms of mechanics, tuning, and refurbishing each individual part. You have to imagine, it was once a very old engine with 200 to 300,000 kilometers on it, covered in 30 years of dirt. Everything was cleaned in an ultrasonic bath, and every mechanical part was replaced with a better one. Achieving this level of performance is truly exceptional. Well over 1,500 work hours have gone into the entire car for this project.
The original Red Pig no longer exists. It was dismantled after making racing history. The 300 SEL was originally a heavy limousine until the tuning company AMG transformed it into a race car. Daniela Siegel, head of the AMG archive, proudly holds the original road registration, complete with a passport photo, something that was mandatory at the time. The tuned luxury car was a true eye-catcher.
The vehicle grabs everyone's attention, and back in 1971, when it achieved those victories, it was both completely surprising and, I believe, people thought it was cool that they had transformed this very mature Mercedes-Benz limousine into a rebellious race car, a car that went on to compete so successfully in Spa in 1971.
A rebellion on four wheels. It's the golden age of endurance racing. Teams of multiple drivers race touring cars around the clock on tracks. Particularly spectacular, the 24 Hours of Spa.
Knapp 80 Wagen starten am 24. Juli 1971, Punkt 15 Uhr, zur gnadenlosen Materialschlacht rund um die Uhr. Vom Start weg setzt sich der Werks-Capri RS von Dieter Glemser an die Spitze. Wenig später bereits führt der bärenstarke 500 PS Chevrolet Camaro des Belgiers Ivo Grolls. Auch der private AMG Mercedes mit Hans Heyer am Steuer überholt Glemsers Capri.
The race marks the ignition for success. Mercedes achieves a massive surprise with the modified AMG 300 SEL, the Red Pig.
Im Morgengrauen sichtet die Zeitnahme nur noch 23 Wagen. Teils kerngesund, teils in den letzten Zügen liegen. Die Devise der letzten Stunden: Überleben, nichts mehr riskieren, ankommen. Der AMG Mercedes tankt noch einmal, wenig später letzter Fahrerwechsel im führenden Capri RS. Dann fällt die Zielflagge. Nur 18 Wagen überstehen die Distanz. Ein großer Tag für Ford, aber auch ein großer Tag für Mercedes.
An underdog becomes a superstar. Overnight, AMG is catapulted to global fame.
It was so unusual, so surprising, that this large, heavy luxury limousine, still weighing over 1,600 kilos, won the race and left all the much lighter, smaller cars behind. The victory was so remarkable that it was even reported on in the Tagesschau. It was the first flash of media attention for this tiny company. Here in this region, what was crucial was that people with regular Mercedes vehicles, whether it was a Heckfloss or a standard 300 SCL 6.3, flocked to AMG and asked, "Can you make my car faster or more powerful too?"
Today, the legend lives on. There is a very exclusive fan base. Enthusiasts are willing to spend several €100,000 on such a replica. He is getting the so-called replica ready for the racetrack. Matthias Bettels has reconstructed the Red Pig based on old plans. For the car builder, it's one of his masterpieces.
Buchsen sehen auch alle super aus. Das funktioniert.
Hier war ja ein Tropfen dran, das müssen wir machen.
Da müssen wir die Schelle nochmal nachziehen. Ich denke mal, kommt hier aus der Schelle ganz leicht. Aber das sind schon die guten Schellen, ne?
Bolted and welded, using only high-quality components, a V8 engine with 430 horsepower is created. With his replicas, Bettels brings long-held dreams to life.
These are simply men's dreams being realized here. These are our dreams too, that we're making come true. There's nothing better than taking a relaxed test drive down the road, feeling the wind in your hair, and listening to the engine roar. That's what true driving feels like.
Out on the road for a test drive. As a faithful replica, the Mercedes lacks any modern assistance systems. Driving like in the 70s. With high engine performance and no power steering, handling the Red Pig requires a lot of experience and full physical effort.
I always compare the Red Pig to riding a wild bull. You have to grab it by the horns when you hit the gas, and it's like riding a rodeo. It's just such a powerful car, with a massive amount of displacement, and it's pure joy to drive.
In Affalterbach, Gökhan Gulecki has now reached measure 13. Now, the V8 engine is getting its extra power.
I've mounted the cylinder head cover. I've also already installed the thermostat and manifold in an inner hot compartment. And now comes the special moment. These are our two turbochargers, which will be placed on the manifold, giving the engine an extra boost.
And here comes the power booster, turbocharger number 1. Again, it's first lubricated, then the big moment follows. With the turbocharger, the engine gets its crown. The principle is as simple as it is effective. The turbo uses the power of exhaust gases that would otherwise dissipate. It drives a turbine wheel, and with this rotation, it compresses the intake air, providing the engine with more oxygen for combustion. The V8 is a V-turbo engine. Gulecki is now installing the second turbo. A template helps the mechanic mount the two turbochargers precisely parallel to each other. Done. Everything is in place.
So here we have our turbochargers in place, 2 of them, giving the engine a nice extra boost in performance.
It's almost finished. The engine is close to completion. What's missing is the electrics. Gulecki is wiring up the individual components, giving the machine a nervous system. He installs the so-called wiring harness, which means he's laying the cables that connect the various components. What started as a simple crankcase has now become a high-performance V8 turbo engine, and all within just a few hours. A few details remain. Here, he mounts the oil filler neck, just a few more meters to the end of the production line. Final adjustments, last screws, the last few minutes. Then it's time. The finish line. Gökhan Gulecki rolls across the line on the floor. The engine is complete. The race is won. A celebratory moment for the builder. With a pre-made signature, the mechanic leaves his permanent mark on the machine. His engine, his work, his nameplate.
It makes me proud, of course, to complete the entire engine here and to have my name on a plaque that will be sold and driven around the world.
The Wall of Fame of Mechanics in Affalterbach. Gulecki's name is there too. One among around 270.
The plaque on the engine is, of course, not only an honor for the mechanic. He's allowed to sign it, but not only that. This is also a commitment on the other hand. As we all know, when you sign something, whether it's an official document or otherwise, you're making a statement. In this case, it's a statement that the engine truly meets all of our quality standards, and that a high-performance engine is leaving our facility.
Gökhan Gulecki has built a flawless engine, and the new owners often express their gratitude.
It's a nice feeling, because customers often write me via social media and say what a great job we did. And satisfied customers, of course, make me happy too.
Now his engine is being sent off, bearing a plaque symbolizing handcrafted quality. For them, every beginning was challenging. Mercedes engineers Erhard Melcher and Hans-Werner Aufrecht initially wanted to build racing engines in the late 60s. But Mercedes decided against motorsport. So, they struck out on their own, founding AMG, Aufrecht, Melcher, and Grossasbach, the birthplace of Hans-Werner Aufrecht.
It was just the 2 of them. There were no employees or anything like that. Maybe some buddies who'd drop by and lend a hand. But the first workshop was a rented old mill in Bergstall, the neighboring town here. And this old mill, while rented, served well enough as a workshop. It was usable, but it was relatively cramped and dark. But they could work there, make noise, and get things done.
Tough times for the small tuning workshop. And suddenly, they became famous overnight with the Red Pig. However, the development work had pushed them to their financial limits.
They invested an incredible amount of money into this vehicle, the 300 SL 6.8, the Red Pig. To be honest, they probably had to recover financially before even thinking about motorsport again. That's why they initially focused on generating income through modifications, tuning regular production vehicles. Essentially, however, it was an independent workshop specializing in Mercedes.
A lucrative business model. AMG transforms production cars into road racers. The automaker keeps growing and growing.
This caught so much attention from Mercedes-Benz, which had, let's say, been somewhat skeptical about Affalterbach. The success was so impressive that in 1988, Mercedes-Benz offered AMG a motorsport partnership, allowing them to take over a racing team on behalf of Mercedes-Benz.
So, it finally happened. This marks the beginning of a long and successful partnership. In 2005, AMG's car workshop officially became a Mercedes subsidiary. With the Mercedes acquisition, the sports car brand received its own design identity. Robert Lesnick and Bastian Baudi are the creative minds behind AMG's appearance. It all begins with a simple sketch. From these ideas on paper, they develop a comprehensive concept, giving each vehicle its unique character. The cars are designed to look sporty, while also exuding elegance.
I mean, one of the most iconic elements of any AMG is definitely the grille. This so-called A shape, which is wider at the bottom than the top. It really sort of sharpens that sense of aggression. And also, it enhances the sporty presence. And, of course, you can also differentiate the cars a bit, depending on how large and open the grille is.
The drawn sketches are transformed into initial digital models, a crucial checkpoint for Lesnick and Baudi. The digital renderings allow them to see if a truly distinctive design is taking shape.
The most important aspect of a sports car, and especially for an AMG, is undoubtedly its proportions. I think you can already see it quite well in this sketch. How does the car stand on its wheels? I don't just picture it at high speeds. I see it passing by in the city, making heads turn. Of course, it all falls under the category of sensual purity, which is our house style, our design philosophy. But in its extreme form, it could only be AMG.
Especially with our vehicles, where the front naturally slopes downward, everything is focused forward onto the road. The grille, like a turbine, essentially dictates the car's direction, defining both the shape and the volume of the front. And I believe that this full volume and the presence it brings to the front is absolutely essential.
When Bastian Baudi talks about his job, he gets enthusiastic. His vehicle design should, and must, evoke emotions. People should connect with the car, something that fascinates them, like motorsports, for example.
These are all aspects that turn these vehicles into highly emotional products, captivating every designer who has internalized them in the creative process. And there's also inspiration from motorsports as well, especially when you see such a vehicle on the racetrack, where AMG has its roots. These are all the emotions that are embedded into the final sketch. I believe that emotions are always at play, driving us in every design aspect of these cars.
In the 3D model, the design takes shape line by line, with each one making a significant difference depending on its arrangement.
Vertical lines, like those on a Rolls-Royce, convey status and tend to feel a bit stiff, adding presence. In contrast, the downward A shape, with lines extending toward the sides, gives the car a stable stance on the road. This A shape, with its lines angling downward, provides a solid foundation. If the lines converged only toward the center at the bottom, it would make the car appear narrow and relatively unstable. Extending outward where the wheels are gives the car width and a solid base. That's why we've repeated these graphics in all these lines that essentially pull the car outward and downward. Even the headlights are aligned with the grille, creating this distinct AMG design language. It's a very unique graphic identity for AMG.
The digital design has now taken on a real, tangible form. A clay model serves as the first true-to-scale implementation.
From the sketch, the next step is the clay model, where the sketch is transferred into a three-dimensional form. This allows us to sculpt and refine the volume surfaces in detail. We work on it with tape to correct the surface transitions as needed. Finally, the model is covered with a special film to make it resemble a real car as closely as possible, allowing for a more accurate evaluation. And this is how the design is gradually developed, step by step, until reaching the final version.
What Bastian Body is presenting here is the prototype for an entirely new generation of vehicles. AMG is also planning for an electric future. This model is racing ahead on the journey to the future. The AMG 1 isn't fully electric yet, but it's a hybrid unlike any other. A V6 combustion engine from Formula One, combined with 4 electric motors, results in a road-legal super sports car, a so-called hypercar with 1,000 horsepower and a top speed of over 350 kilometers per hour. Gull-wing doors evoke the iconic SL era. With the One, AMG aims to carry its legacy into the future.
The future vision for AMG is, above all, to continue creating emotion. That's the most important thing. Our drive strategy is the path to achieving this. On one hand, we'll continue offering combustion engines. At the same time, we're fully powered up, working to bring our first high-performance, fully electric platform to market. The goal for this platform is to deliver the same emotional experience that our customers associate with. For example, a combustion engine today.
The AMG 1 is a flagship model and is meant to remain exclusive. The workshop produces only 275 units, no more. All were sold before the official launch. These collector's items are as unique as their price. Anyone wanting to drive an AMG 1 will need to pay over 2 million euros. AMG's combustion engines are legendary. The sports cars of the future are also set to offer something truly distinctive.
What does it mean to reinterpret this grille, which was previously airflowed for electric cars? On one hand, it still retains those iconic AMG graphics. The A-shape and vertical slats, a major brand signature. Keeping these elements, but reimagining them, opens up possibilities. For example, could they be illuminated? It's an idea that might enhance the brand even further.
Equally important are the eyes of the face, because in the end, every Mercedes needs a recognizable face. Earlier, we saw a sketch with 3 light dots, 3 lighting elements arranged differently. In this concept here, you see another form, which could potentially work well for an electric vehicle. But let's see. As mentioned, it's just one of many ideas.
The AMG design should remain unique, even if certain elements in a sports car will soon become obsolete. For example, the exhaust.
The big question here is, with an electric car, there's obviously no exhaust in the traditional sense. So the important question is, how do we carry this fascination into the future? With an element that ends up catching the eye immediately. One suggestion is to use the lights, making them the iconic elements at the rear. I always say, Easy to read, easy to remember, meaning I've seen it once and I can remember it.
Vision meets the present. The automaker showcases the futuristic clay model of an e-AMG right next to the combustion engine SL and GT models. The look is intended to remain unique in the future as well. After the designers have crafted the concept, the vehicle goes into production. An AMG SL receives its emblem. In Bremen, Mercedes operates one of the world's largest production lines. In what's known as the body-in-white phase, the bodies of the SL and GT are manufactured in northern Germany. Here too, production is carried out step by step in Z stages. Z for the German word for assembly. In Z1, the body parts are joined and welded, almost exclusively by robots, which use laser beams to weld the aluminum components. The concentrated, rapid, energy input ensures that each seam is accurate to the millimeter. The aluminum components are lifted into robotic cells, and a vehicle body begins to take shape. By now, the raw body shell is already taking clear shape. Initially, the machines handle the heavy lifting, slowly bringing the parts up to the body. Here, the side section of an AMG SL is assembled. Even the transport to the next station is fully automated, with massive crane arms moving the body onward. From this point on, skilled precision is essential. No vehicle is exactly like another. It's about subtle differences and high accuracy. To ensure the high quality of the aluminum bodies, the final critical welds are completed by specialists. Gordon Kramer is the head of the body-in-white production line. He knows that skilled workers are indispensable here.
The body is made of aluminum, and aluminum welding is a refined skill. While we've automated many processes with robots, certain tactile connections are far better handled by a human, both in precision and quality. There are subtle variations from body to body, which only a human can respond to, ensuring the work meets the highest standards, and even independently inspecting their own work for quality control.
Should there be the slightest deviations in the welding work of the machines, specialists are ready to intervene if necessary.
The team here also double-checks the robot's work. The robots weld consistently, but the colleague on site has to inspect what the robot has done and make adjustments, because they're even better than the robots themselves.
It's called MMK, German abbreviation for human, machine, cooperation.
Hier die Naht können wir uns mal anschauen. Hier ist natürlich ein bisschen spritzer, aber ansonsten sieht es aber ganz gut aus hier. Ne? Ja, genau. Also da müsst ihr noch mal hinschauen, aber ansonsten war es ein Top-Job. Aber da müssen wir mal einen Blick haben, dass alles sauber ist. Ja, ne? Okay.
In the next assembly phase, the side panels have been added, bringing the body shell to stage Z3. Fenders, trunk lid, and hood are now installed. The gaps between moving parts are measured and checked by feel. The smaller the deviations, the higher the vehicle's quality.
We're talking about gaps with a precision of 0.5 millimeters in how the employees adjust the assembly parts. These are the tolerances we're working with. And what the colleagues also do, of course, is feel the transitions. This means the final finish, a gentle touch. This is essential for every bodywork process, and you can rely on your own sense for that.
Every small adjustment makes the vehicle even more perfect. The precise gap dimensions and accurately measured spaces between doors and frames represent the precision of the entire process. With the bodywork complete, interior assembly begins. In Bremen, a flexible conveyor system is used, allowing different models to move through each station consecutively. The tools and materials needed for each specific model must be available on time and fit precisely in mobile storage racks. In this step, the cockpit is installed. A network of supplies converges at the production line, where the so-called just-in-time production process represents a peak in logistical performance. After the interior assembly, the roof can now be installed. One model after another reaches the end of the construction phase. What remains to be added are the chassis and the drivetrain. And now, the star makes its entrance. A handcrafted AMG engine arrives in Bremen, along with Gökhan Güllecki's plaque, tucked in a small yellow pouch. The engine from Affalterbach is now paired with the transmission in Bremen. Using a mechanical gripper, the heavy block is maneuvered toward the V8 machine. The assembly includes a highly advanced automatic transmission, which will later enable seamless and smooth acceleration. The engine block and transmission are united. The vehicle is equipped with all-wheel drive. Here, the front axle gearbox is attached to the engine block, which is crucial for transferring the engine's power to the front wheels. The drive unit is now complete. The core of the future super sports car is ready for transport. A fully automated transport vehicle takes over the precious cargo, delivering the engine transmission block to the next station. Gökhan Güllecki built the engine, and now the unit is being placed into the chassis. Michael Fries, head of Mercedes production in Bremen, is responsible for ensuring that the workflows of both people and machines interlock perfectly.
Humans are highly adaptable. This is one of their most important abilities. They can quickly adjust to any situation, and sometimes that's exactly what matters. The ability to work precisely on these tasks requires flexibility. Technology, on the other hand, can take over tasks that are ergonomically challenging for workers, such as transporting heavy loads precisely to a specific location.
The assembly technicians bolt the engine to the drive shaft and rear axle. The drivetrain of the SL is now complete. Fully automated, the robot-guided vehicle transports it to a very special event, known as the marriage. Through an orange curtain, the chassis glides forward for the union of the drivetrain and body. A bond designed to last the lifetime of the car. From above, the body lowers down onto the chassis.
In the next step, you can see the employees approach the vehicle, guiding the final process. They carefully position the parts one last time before the bolting begins. The workers move to each bolting point to secure the chassis frame to the body, ensuring a precise and stable connection.
At the same time, the wheels and suspensions are mounted. Now, the rear axle steering is secured and tightened onto the wheel carrier. The marriage is the moment when the separate production lines for the engine, chassis, and bodywork come together. For automakers, this technical process is almost a magical moment every time.
It is one of the most emotional and significant moments in automobile manufacturing, known as the marriage. This is the moment when the powertrain joins with the axle, along with all the other components, and is united with the chassis. The two main elements are married here. Everyone knows that this is one of the most crucial processes, as the marriage defines whether the vehicle will ultimately perform well.
For this black SL, it's just a few more meters before it's ready to roll out into the open. Only the prominently visible name is missing, which is affixed to the engine cover. For future owners, it's a status symbol. Next come the model designation and logo, applied by hand, using stencils. Exceptional design and outstanding engine performance. After all, those who drive in such luxury want to show it off. AMG stands for quality. SL63 stands for speed. A sports car with over 580 horsepower. In a long waiting line, the SL and GT are ready for transport, like predators poised to pounce, eager to be unleashed. Then, the moment arrives. A new SL rolls out of the hall, ready for delivery to the customer. In the showroom in Affalterbach, the SL awaits its future owner. Polished to a high shine and showcased with its own dedicated presentation. This transforms the delivery into a spectacular event for the customer. Buying a car is also entertainment. And Niklas Bethke is the master of ceremonies.
Wir heißen herzlich willkommen hier bei uns in Affalterbach bei der schnellsten Familie der Welt. Und hier habe ich einmal den Mercedes-AMG SL63.
The end of a long production process. Now, Niklas Bethke hands over the car to the customer. Gökhan built this engine and left his signature on it with the plaque, marking it as his own creation.
This has a profound effect on our customers, as it makes them feel so much more a part of this family, the world's fastest family, as we call ourselves. It's truly a wonderful experience we've created, and it brings us this unique feedback.
The world's fastest family. The perfect staging of the key handover is designed to build lasting connections with customers. The idea behind the slogan is simple. Those who glide off the factory grounds in their new sports car become part of an exclusive community, forever connected to the brand.
We invite customers here to spend an unforgettable day with us. They have the opportunity to experience our engine manufactory firsthand. It's not just about picking up their vehicle. They're also giving something back to my team. They show us, I appreciate this. I admire what you do. I think it's wonderful recognition for the work we do here every day, and it's also a sign of true appreciation.
One man, one engine, an extraordinary philosophy. AMG will continue to focus on exclusivity in the future. The goal is not only to achieve excellence, but to maintain it. When a vehicle sounds like this, accelerates like this, and handles the road like this, it's unmistakably an AMG.